Scott just made the point.
Jefferson seems to be a lot more secure, not just in our...
Everybody, I'd like to start by showing you a picture. Now, this is a photo of the product of a free 21st century capitalist economy descending into the abject poverty and political oppression of one of the two remaining communist dictatorships left in the world. Now, what would cause such a thing as an aircraft like that landing in a place like that? Was it shot down? Yeah, kinda. It was shot down. It was shot down by the man entrusted to preserve that free capitalist nation in the name of the people that have supplied him with that vehicle, formerly known as Air Force One, but now better called the flagship of the Presidential World Apology Cruise, or if that seems a little too harsh for you, the world's most expensive golf cart. Obama has gone to Cuba, taking what's left of U.S. prestige with him, and as always, with this socialist and dictator-loving narcissist, he's coming home with a lot less than he went out with. So let's bring in Steve Green and Scott Ott to help me withstand this new low in American depravity and disgrace. Gentlemen, it's been almost 9 decades since a sitting U.S. president has visited Cuba. 2/3 of that time, Cuba, which was once the most prosperous region in the entire Caribbean, has been under the sway of the communist revolutionary Fidel Castro. He's the widely adored man of the people who led a revolution against income inequality and whose personal net worth is estimated to be at about $550 million. See how it works? Steve, just prior to the visit, a new round of protesters and dissidents joined the other political prisoners in Castro's dungeons. And yet, Obama said in a press conference with Raul Castro that America has much to learn from Cuba, especially in the area of civil rights. And after the president of the United States of America stood next to this tin pot dictator and listened to him rattle off a list of the supposed American sins, Obama told him that, yeah, he pretty much agreed with him. I have to stop talking now, Steve, because if I don't, I'm going to get fired.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my answer short for the exact same reason. I want to say a couple of things first that are only tangentially related to this. The time to have started the process, and it should have been a long process of normalizing relations with Cuba, would have been sometime around 1991-92, and it should have been handled by George H.W. Bush, or perhaps by Bill Clinton after a little more reflection, or certainly by the time of George W. Bush, because the Cold War was over and we could have gotten some serious concessions out of Castro to help to liberate these people who have been oppressed since about 1959. Since 1959 they've been oppressed, and both Bushes and Clinton punted on this and put it in the hands of Barack Obama. And what we're seeing as a result is the blossoming of 7 years of Obama's foreign policy. You know, I have to take that back. This is not the blossoming of 7 years of Obama's foreign policy. This is the dream. This is the dream of 50 years of progressive politics for an American to go to Cuba and stick it to the man, standing right next to a Castro. And it wasn't just anybody, it was the President of the United States. Congratulations, progressives. You got your dream. I hope you're happy. The rest of us are pretty damn mad about it.
Yeah, that's right. And Scotty, people on the left may ask, what difference does it make if the president goes to Cuba? So that's my question for you, Scott. What difference does it make between capitalism and socialism? What difference does it make between freedom and slavery, let's say? What difference does it make between good and evil?
I've sat across the table from people who risked their lives to get out of Cuba. There are people who have essentially strapped themselves to metal drums and planks and went into shark-infested waters in order to escape from this tyranny, this, as Steve accurately calls it, the full flower of the leftist dream. There are many thousands of those people, some who lost their lives in the effort, and many who got here to the United States of America and who've been praying for years that the dictator would fall. And instead, what they got was the chief executive of the United States of America, who went over there and blessed Fidel Castro's intransigence and said, "You, my brother, have done the right thing. You held out, we collapsed, you have won." That is a slap in the face to every Cuban American, to every Cubano who is still over there hoping to get here someday, hoping that someday he'd live long enough to see the Castro regime fall. It is one of the most in a long list of despicable things that the Obama administration has done. One of the most despicable things I've ever seen.
Folks, let me show you another picture here. This is a picture of the President of the United States of America standing in a plaza in Cuba, and directly behind him on a mural is the face of Che Guevara. Che Guevara you may recognize from all of those groovy t-shirts. Che Guevara was a mass murderer. He was Cuba's executioner. That's what his job was. He went around and executed people in the name of income inequality and free education. That's what he did. He's a mass murderer, and the president standing there is colluding with mass murder by being there. There are people in Cuban dungeons who are in dungeons in advance of his visit because they were protesting the Cuban government. They're in dungeons, and there stands Barack Obama with all of them. Let me explain something, okay? What Scott said earlier about people giving their lives to get out of that land is not a joke. When we say that Cuba had not been visited by a sitting U.S. president for 88 years, that's not 88 years of Republican presidents. You know, that's not 88 years of Republican presidents that didn't go to Cuba. FDR didn't go to Cuba. JFK certainly didn't go to Cuba. Neither did Truman. Neither did LBJ. Neither did Jimmy Carter. And neither did Bill Clinton. Why? Because it and North Korea are the only two totalitarian communist dictatorships left in the world. They are the only two countries left in the world where people are imprisoned for speaking out for the idea of a free market and the ability to spend your money the way you want to and have the ability to drive through the country the way you want to. Why isn't he going to North Korea next and blessing Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-il or Kim Il-sung or whatever particular dictator you want to admit to? The United States of America is supposed to be the champion of freedom in the world. When the world champion of freedom shows up in the middle of oppression and murder and tyranny and shakes its hand, he is not raising them up to our level. All he is doing is destroying the moral high ground that we occupied and deserve to occupy for fighting for freedom around the world for our entire lives. There are people who are blown out into the Gulf of Mexico and people who watch their grandmothers slip beneath the waves and their little 4-year-old girls being torn apart by sharks, who are trying to get out of a government that this man just went down there and shook hands with. There was a time, or rather there would have been a time, for a United States president to visit Castro in glory and in triumph. And that would have been the day that the Cuban people overthrew these tyrants and decided to let some sense of freedom back into their country. Then a presidential visit would not only have been appropriate, it would have been magnificent, but not with this guy. I am convinced that the final reason that Barack Obama went to Cuba was because there's nobody here to applaud him at home. If you watch him walking into the Cuban stadium down there, the baseball stadium, he's not getting a lot of response here, but he went back finally and got the adoration and got to wave to the crowd with his sleeves rolled up and his sunglasses on. He got to be, you know, Joey McCool again. I don't buy it. Americans don't buy it. It's a disgrace. It's a slap in the face. It means the people that pitched out and gave their lives to get to America did it in vain. They did it to protest a regime to come to America, thinking America was the refuge. Now the refuge went to them. What do you say about this? Nothing. Did I expect this? Sure. There's nothing that this president can do that I think will be beneath the dignity of what used to be the office of the President of the United States of America. For PJTV, Steve Green and Scott Ott, I'm Bill Whittle.